Hello again, my name is Ernest Minu. Let's settle for the details now. Economists advise government to ensure the stimulus packages for industry goes to identifiable firms that will have good return on investment. Dr. Ibu Texin of the University of Ghana Business School was speaking on the AM show with Roland Walker.
We have some sort of data that the Ghana Statistical Service normally collects under the Integrated Business Establishment Survey. And we are looking at close to about 400,000 of such firms. So we have data. Of course, not all firms are normally captured in the census of enterprises in Ghana, but we have data. And compared to the US, which is a more formalized economy, the unfortunate thing about ours is that most of our enterprises, especially the micro ones, are unregistered, and at times they are not captured in some of these census. And so if we need to support, and it's not going to be able to get everybody on board. That is why those of us who train small enterprises make it a point to let them know that even if your business is not registered, you should make sure that you are under the umbrella of the business association that you belong, so that anytime things like this happen, and there's the need that no firms involved for the support, at least you are captured. But definitely there is some data that the government can use for any support that it wants to give. The support shouldn't go to every firm. I mean, this is support that hopefully once it's being paid back, others will also benefit. I think that the initial focus should be on small and medium enterprises that offer a sizable number of jobs, and for which currently, as we speak, there is the demand for what they produce. Because you don't have to go and support a firm that does not offer a lot of employment, that has no produce now. Otherwise, whatever support is given to them will go directly into paying wages of workers who are not productive.
Here from development economist Dr. Patrick Esumin, who called for circumspection in such supports to industry.
It's well known that small and medium enterprises form the bulk of businesses in this country. Their contribution to employment is in the order of about 80%, especially if you look at the informal sector. And to GDP, it's also quite high. More than half of our GDP comes from that sector. So their contribution is quite substantial, and targeting them is very important, because we know that a lot of them have been decimated by the crisis. The question is, I think the question what we always struggle with is exactly how to target them, and to make sure that the kind of support we are giving that will ensure that they become sustainable, and over the long term, there's some path towards formalization. I think, as my colleague has said, a big chunk is a big part of the problem is a lot of them are in the informal sector. So it's very difficult to locate them and target them. In a sense, this crisis gives us an opportunity, because the support that is being given, we notice that at the moment is going through the NBSSI, and it appears that because of the support, a lot of them are being forced to formalize by way of registering with the Registrar General Department, so which is a path to formalization. So in a sense, we have a very big opportunity to ensure that a big chunk or a sector that contributes substantially to the economy is receiving sufficient support going forward. The key questions remain exactly, whether the sort of interventions we are giving is exactly what they need. And broadly, also addressing their challenges on a wider scale, targeted loans, because the issue about credit, SMEs in this country face a myriad of problems. And I think it's important that we just don't focus only on the loan aspect and the funding aspect, but address broad-based challenges that the economy faces.
Now, let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to economist Professor Gov't Buckman with the University of Ghana. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Newsdesk. And so you predicted that this would last for 3 years, and so government must target not less than a 3-year program if we are to do anything as far as stabilization and recovery of the economy is concerned. I first wanted to find out from you, government seeks to raise a huge chunk of the 100 million CD program from the private sector. How feasible is that?
Well, yeah, that is the challenge. I think that there are bold initiatives in the media review. The media review is a bit different from what we have been used to in the time past, both in terms of scope and length and content. But it's also, this can be understood largely because of 19. The fact that this is the best opportunity for government to give us a comprehensive view of the impact of COVID-19 on our economy and then also the response. Typically, one would have expected that it should just be 6 months, but we need government to give a signal in terms of its preparedness to contain the pandemic, particularly because we do not know when this is actually going to end. And the more it lingers, the more our recovery is also going to linger as we go along. So if you look at the document, you could see good intentions, bold largely, but the financing arrangement to translate that into actual is not convincing in the document. It's not convincing in the document. So, but I see a smart way from government in trying to look at private sector support, because there is no way government, given the expenditure rigidities, given our dwarf revenue envelope, to be able to finance the recovery plan. No, it's impossible. Why am I saying so? Even pre-pandemic level, we were living from hand to mouth, where practically every CD tax revenue we generate goes to just compensation of an interest payment. And you look at the revised target in the media review, you see compensation of employees going up slightly in response to COVID-19 compensation risk reward structure in terms of frontline workers, which has gone up a bit. But look at interest payment, almost 27 billion. Compensation, 27 billion. Your total tax revenue is less than 50 billion. So it means that even to pay interest or some part of salaries, if we are not careful, we may have to borrow. Okay, so there's no way government is going to be, and this is not, we will not change next year, we will not change 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So more importantly, to be in terms of leveraging the framework and the necessary institutional reform that makes it attractive for the private sector to also invest in such a recovery program.
What is your understanding of the private sector? Because I recall that when the government went to the Bank of Ghana to raise some money, you said that that was a good move because the international markets will not be a good place to source some of these funds from.
When we talk about private sector or private capital, it's not restricted to only the domestic market here. Okay, we are talking about the private capital broadly. And if you look at excess capital from the global north, the US, North America, Europe, and the rest of them, we are looking at how do we package ourselves in a bankable project that allows us to tap into private capital from the global north. So that is the direction also. So there's no way we can, look, if you look at the domestic financial market, there's no way we can mobilize all this money from there. But if you also look at that same plan, part of it also leverages on the private sector in Ghana. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So part of the support is also to private sector in Ghana in terms of revitalizing enterprises and all of that. That is essentially private sector. So some kind of collaboration is what we need now. And why am I saying this? Within Africa, not only Ghana, what it will take financing the recovery in Africa, we are looking at in excess of $144 billion. And the continent itself cannot even provide about 20% of that amount. And that is why there's the need for multilateral institutions to come to the aid of Africa in terms of providing cheap capital, patient capital, to enable Africa finance the recovery. Beyond that, the best helping hand we cannot find, I agree, is at the end of our own arm. How do we look within, okay, and ensure that we are also able to put something on the table from our end to finance the recovery? And this we can do without burdening the faithful few. And here is because of efficiency in the various tax handles. Why am I saying this? I'm about the informal nature of our economy.
Absolutely, they did.
Yes, but you know what? Ghana's tax effort is one of the lowest, even among our peers. Our peers meaning that they have almost similar informality in their economy with challenges that we also have. They are able to collect between 18 to 20% of their GDP into tax revenue. We are doing less than 13%. Okay, even among our peers. So that tells you that there is scope to actually generate a little bit of tax revenue without burdening the faithful few.
Okay.
This is what we have failed as a country in the last 15 years or so. Even with the rebasing also dwarfed the tax efforts largely. The essence of rebasing is also to suggest that if your economy has expanded, that has been captured that much, then you should be looking at the revenue stream from that area also and making sure that you optimize your revenue stream from that area correspondingly. That is the way to go. But as a country, we have failed over the years in greater tax compliance. This is our problem. We may not need to introduce new tax handles necessarily. But look, even if you pick VAT, okay, which we have introduced like many other countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, our VAT efficiency is one of the lowest in Sub-Saharan Africa. And it's largely because of the exemptions that we grant from politically motivated exemptions, okay, which does not benefit us broadly. These are the issues, because you see, when we compare, we say Europe is developing, US is making it. Where would you find these kind of things in their economy that much? But we allow all these kind of things in here, and we still expect what to develop.
So clearly, the issue of tax waivers is a big problem for us, and you have made the point severally how government should approach this. But you're talking about bringing in a lot of people into the fold without necessarily introducing new taxes. Now, the second phase of this program, which is the revitalization program, which you're told will be for the next 3 years, has a component in it which I'm sure would interest you, and has to do with digitization to improve the quality of our businesses. We have started with some moves. What is it that we are not doing right, and going forward you would advise government to do?
We have talked more about digitization than we have actually done. And we have not embraced digitization in our revenue administration or institutional reforms that much. And therefore, we are still using 1960s, 1970s mode of tax collection in this country, which does not help people who genuinely even want to pay the tax. The struggle they go through and all of that. Okay, so now we are told that because of interoperability, mobile money has more than doubled by 400% and all of that. But to what extent are we leveraging this same digital platform to aid tax collection and tax monitoring? That we have not done so well. And the other thing also, why we are inefficient with these things is because the more you digitize these areas, it exposes corrupt people in the system. And it's all part of the elite capture, where you have top chiefs powerful chiefs who hardly pay tax, top religious people, top politicians, top public servants, top civil servants, all over, elite capture at the top. And once it favors them, that is it. Okay, so we need to be pragmatic here, because the point is that COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerability in our system. It further dampens our ability to raise the mass revenue because of disruptions here and there. Meanwhile, at the same time, expenditure is heading up, and it's going to go up further because we are unsure when this thing is going to end. The situation is very fluid. Look, they have revised the GDP from 6.8% to 0.9%, right?
Yeah.
But it is possible by the end of this year, things might have changed. Because from the beginning of this year to end of June, the IMF, World Bank, UN Economic Commission, and all of that, they have all revised their projections more than 3 times. And that tells you how fluid the situation is. Nobody has control. We don't know what will happen next month. Exactly. Coupled with the geopolitics between US and China, which introduce additional risk in the market and uncertainty.
Yeah.
So we need to be very careful, and we again, efficiency.
Very well. And just before you go, Prof, in just a minute, there's a bit about an insurance package for unemployed people. I don't know how that comes across to you as part of the package for the revitalization program.
Yeah, this has been long overdue. In other countries, they have that. Okay, but of course, it works well on proper data, which will enable the premium determination and all of that. But I believe that it's a good starting point. It's not an end in itself. So we need to be able to look at some of these things, risk management techniques that are available that we can use to manage, because this may not be the last crisis. In fact, since recording started, the world has witnessed 15 pandemic events from the 14th century. Okay, this is the 16th one, and there's nothing to suggest it will be the last one, unless the Lord intervenes. To be able to prepare not only for this one, but for tomorrow also.
And I want you to hold the line for me, Prof, because we've been joined by Ben Boache of ASAP. He joins us via Zoom for the other conversation, which has to do with the freebies as far as electricity is concerned. Thank you very much, Ben, for joining us.